because the people that you let run your lives aren't very nice. The people that govern you, the people that tell you people what to do, they're not good people.
Welcome to Monkey Business and Murder. I'm Presley.
I'm Sadie.
And today we'll be covering the Manson family murders.
In order to fully understand the murders, we first have to understand the cult itself.
The 60s were a turbulent time in America. People were upset with their leaders, the Vietnam War, and wanted to break from the conservative ideals of the past.
The 60s also held the assassinations of MLK Jr., JFK, and Robert Kennedy Jr. America was in turmoil, which made a perfect way for the flower power or counterculture movement.
Young hippies everywhere were looking for their solace. This is where a fresh out of jail, mid-30s, Charles Manson would find his success.
Manson was very charismatic and had an intriguing aura about him, which drew people, specifically young women.
He treated his cult as if they were family. He convinced them they couldn't feel pain, didn't need to eat or drink, and would perform his own communion on his followers with LSD.
During these LSD trips, his followers were extremely vulnerable, so Charles was able to convince them. He was otherworldly and often told them about his LSD experience, where he claims he was crucified, in which he had hoped they would infer that he was the second coming of Christ.
Manson was extremely manipulative and extremely intelligent. With an IQ of around 117, it was very easy for him to pick up these damaged young women and get them to perform his bidding.
Helter-skelter is a term Manson used to describe a race war he'd been predicting for a while. Helter-skelter was a song off the Beatles' White Album. Manson heard this song and claimed it was sending him a message that black people would rise against white people and turn violent. The solution framing innocent black people for crimes against affluent white people.
Manson baited this race war for a very long time. He had his followers go out to the desert to await this apocalyptic day. Yet that day never came. This is where Manson decides to use his power to give it a nudge.
Sharon Tate was a young Hollywood starlet, 8 months pregnant. She lived in her Hollywood Hills home with her husband, filmmaker Roman Polanski. Manson figured killing someone in the Hollywood scene would cause an uproar. The final push he needed to convince everyone his predictions were right and he was really the Messiah.
On the night of August 8th, Tex Watson drove Susan Atkins, Linda Kasabian, and Patricia Krenwinkel to the home of Sharon Tate and Polanski, with orders from Manson to totally destroy everyone in it. But there were more than 2 people in that house that night. It was also being occupied by celebrity hairstylist and Tate's past lover, Jay Sebring, Polanski's friend, Wojciech Frykowski's girlfriend, Abigail Folger, the house's caretaker, William Garretson, and his friend, Stephen Parent. Polanski was in Europe at the time, working on a film.
Watson would then climb the telephone pole and cut the phone line.
A car pulled up. The driver, Stephen Parent, coming to visit Garretson. Watson ordered Parent to halt before threatening Parent with a gun and then lunging at him with a knife and then shooting him 4 times in the chest. Still sat in the front seat of his 1965 AMC Rambler, Watson turned off the car and pushed it from the gate of the home.
Watson would then cut the screen of a window, telling Cabison to keep watch. Watson climbed through the window, then unlocked the door for Atkins and Krenwinkel to enter.
Frykowski was asleep on the couch. Watson kicked him in the head to awake him. When Frykowski asked Watson who he was, he replied, "I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business."
Atkins and Krenwinkel forced the 3 others into the living room before tying Tate and Sebring together by their necks with a rope and swung the rope over the ceiling fan. When Sebring was protested the rough treatment of Tate, who was 8 months pregnant at the time, Sebring was shot and stabbed 7 times.
Frykowski escaped through the front door before Watson caught up with him, struck him over the head with a gun 13 times, and stabbed him 51, killing him.
Folger escaped through the back, but was followed by Krenwinkel, who tackles her and stabs her. Watson then finished the job, stabbing her 28 times, killing Folger.
Inside, Tate begged for her life of her unborn child, offering herself hostage until the child could be born. Atkins and Watson would then stab her 16 times. Atkins writes "pig" on the door of in Tate's blood, inspired by killing. Atkins would later be arrested for involvement in Gary Heineman, in which "political piggy" had been written on the walls of the scene.
If you're gonna do something, leave something witchy. Just like I would tell you, if you're going to do something, do it well. And leave something witchy. Leave a sign to let the world know that you were there. Have a good day.
It's time for MBAB sponsored time.
Hey Presley, do you know what I love?
What, Sadie?
The zoo!
OMG, me too!
Thank you to Detroit Zoo for sponsoring us today and allowing the Monkey Business and Murder podcast shared custody of some sick primates.
On the morning of August 10th, 1969, Manson, along with members of his family, Kasabian, Watson, Atkins, Leslie Van Houten, Kreenwinkle, and Clam Grogan, drove to the home of Leno and Rosemary LaBianca. Manson, displeased at the panic of the previous night's murder. The Manson family had never met the LaBiancas and had no prior knowledge of them or their lives besides attending a party next door the year prior. Manson entered the residence where he tied up the LaBiancas. He then left while Watson, Van Houten, and Kreenwinkle entered the house through the back door. Manson there left the scene.
Watson put pillowcases over Leno and Rosemary's head and then tied their hands with a lamp cord. Rosemary made it back to her bedroom while Watson stabbed Leno with a bayonet. He heard noises coming from the bedroom and went to investigate, where he saw Rosemary swinging a lamp that had been tied around her neck at Van Houten and Kerwinkle. He stabbed Rosemary a few times and proceeded with Leno, where he stabbed him 12 times and carved war into Leno's abdomen.
Van Houten stabbed Rosemary 16 times with a knife from the LaBianca's kitchen. Watson then took a shower in their home. Winkle wrote "Rise" and "Death to Pigs" on the wall, and infamously "Helter Skelter" on the fridge door in the LaBianca's blood.
After 2 nights of murder, the Manson family was still not suspected. It wasn't until Atkins was jailed for her involvement of the Heinemann murder and was heard bragging about the Tate/LaBianca murders to her cellmates that the family was convicted and arrested between October through December of 1969.
Kasabian had been granted immunity for her testimony as main witness. The case broke and shook the U.S., yet did not trigger a race war. It instead set the end to the flower power movement.
America saw this as a crazed hippie cult. The public perception of cults shifted from new age to destructive. This case got a lot of attention and coverage from just about every news outlet, including La Times, CBS News, The Guardian, and ABC 7.
The case fascinates much of America still today, with many documentaries made about it and Vincent Bugliosi's book Helter Skelter. The cult, Manson specifically, was declared literally a cult icon and notorious leader, even though at most the Manson family had less than 100 people in it.
Manson went on to die in jail while inspiring some interesting subjects as pop culture icons such as Marilyn Manson or the better option, Trent Reznor, of Nine Inch Nails. The murders contributed to the rise of victims of the right movement. Doris Tate, Sharon Tate's mother, helped the bill pass in 1982, which allowed for victim impact statements.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Monkey Business and Murder, Manson Family Monkeys.
Tune in next week where we'll cover the Church of Scientology Monkey.
And always come back for more.